good are you at setting boundaries? How good are you at respecting other people's boundaries? What are boundaries? Those are the topics of today's conversation. And universally, with so many people I work with, this is a cause of great relationship challenge and pain for many people, this idea of boundaries. Prentice Hemphill has the quote that says, "Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously." And I think that that quote captures what boundaries are in a really profoundly beautiful way. The boundaries are the act of being able to demonstrate love in action. It's a way of saying, this is how I expect to be loved, and this is how I can love you. Boundary says, this is where I end and you begin. And when I can respect that space between us, we can have a very healthy relationship. Sadly, boundaries are something we're not taught, and we have many games that we play as we grow up. And so boundaries become a really difficult thing for us to do. For me, boundaries are acts of love. As I said, the way that I can love you and you can love me. But most importantly, boundaries are an act of self-love. It's probably the one skill, the one thing that we can do that demonstrates self-love the most. So when we start to think about boundaries, what do we have boundaries around? And we can have boundaries around many different things. Let's explore some of them. We can have boundaries around our money. When somebody asks, can they lend some money from you? Can they have some money from you? Can you buy them something? You can say yes and no to that question. Even conversations about money. We can have boundaries around our time. What do we invest our time and energy on? And certainly in the workspace, this is probably one of the challenges that causes one of the most toxic work environments, is we don't respect people's time boundaries. Whether that's whether somebody can make a meeting or not make a meeting, or whether we ignore the times that we've committed to, these are violations of boundaries for people. We can have boundaries around our bodies, around our physical space. Who's allowed to hug us, not hug us? Who's allowed to come close, not close? What are your limits around that? And it can change, and it can change on who it is. You can have boundaries around your physical property, your home, your car, your stuff, your camera, your handbag, your wallet, your computer, your phone. These are all properties, things that you have that are extensions of you, and how other people use them or want to use them can violate boundaries. And we can even have boundaries around our internal thoughts and beliefs and emotions. What am I prepared to talk about, share, get into conversations with people around? So we can see that all these physical things in our lives are where we get to make choices and decisions around how we navigate what's important to us, what's okay for us, and what's not okay for us. Actually, boundaries simply comes down to that question: what is okay and what is not okay? And it comes down to a language thing. We can learn to answer questions with the simple words of yes and no. Every single time we have an opportunity to say yes and no in the world, it's an opportunity to set a boundary. So let's explore this idea of being able to make choices, to say yes and to say no. It sounds like a simple concept, but it's not really. Being able to honor the yeses and nos for ourselves and other people in the world can be quite a difficult thing. When I first met my partner Eric, I remember going to the Wimpy with him and his daughter, who was I think 5 at the time. And Imogen had a delightful milkshake in front of her. And I remember Eric saying to Imogen, "May I have a sip of your milkshake?" And this little girl turned to him with a very defiant face and said, "No." And he went, "Okay." And for me, it was a really profound moment of noticing how important it is for us to honor boundaries especially when we can override them, where it's irrational. He didn't pull that "I'm paying for it." He didn't pull it "but I'm your father." He didn't pull "but don't be selfish, you must be nice" card. He just said okay. And in that moment taught her that she can say no and it will be respected. When I work with clients, in all of them, when they're battling to set boundaries, I think the most important thing that has transpired for them is they battle to hear boundaries. To feel the discomfort when somebody says no and to honor it. To let somebody say no to you is the ultimate sign of respect. To be okay with that rejection. When we can truly, truly, truly hear that and live in the discomfort of it, because boundaries are uncomfortable, then we're starting to navigate the art of boundaries in a beautiful way. Boundaries come with the complexity of emotions. How do we know a boundary has been violated? We feel angry, uncomfortable, resentful, irritable. When I lend my car to somebody and they bring it back dirty, I'm irritable because that's a boundary. I may not have said it out loud. And so as we're starting to talk about all of these things, we can notice that boundaries have this dynamic of emotion and the permission to learn to be more expressive in the world. And when we express ourselves, it may be uncomfortable. At the heart of boundaries, we need to understand boundaries are not instructions to other people. I can't force something on you so that I feel okay. Healthy boundaries are instructions to myself about what I want to do when a boundary has been violated or when I want to start making choices. So if I use the car example again, the ability to say, next time I'm not going to lend you my car because you bring it back dirty. That's an instruction to myself around how I'm going to navigate this. So let's explore this concept of saying yes and saying no a little bit more. It may be useful to step back and notice what's your automatic response to people, particularly people that you love or feel like you need to respect, or somebody who has authority in your world. Some people have very rigid boundaries, and so they have an automatic no. Anybody asks them something, no. Yeah. Some people have an automatic yes. Doesn't matter what gets asked, just say yes. If you never say no, your yes is meaningless. And so one of the things that we can learn to do is interrupt our automatic response with permission to say, I don't know. To give yourself a pause point, to give yourself a place of true choice rather than the automatic thing that we've learned to do, is when somebody asks you a question, you can say, I don't know yet. Just give me a moment to think about it. Just give me a little bit of time. That interrupts our adrenaline system and gives us a chance to start connecting in with ourselves so that we can get more honest with what our yeses and nos mean. Because when we look at this saying yes and saying no, it's great when I say yes and mean yes. And it's great when I say no and mean no. But sometimes I'm saying yes and my internal voice is saying no. And sometimes I'm even saying no when my internal voice is saying yes. And that act of self-betrayal is the thing that causes us the most harm in our life. So you can start to say, I don't know yet. Would you like to meet me on Friday for dinner? I don't know. I need to check my diary. Can you fetch my children for me? I don't know. Provided you do honor coming back with a yes and a no after that. So this world of no, let's explore that a little bit more. As I've said, when I say no and I mean no, that's a hard boundary. I call that the banana no for me. Bananas are something I don't like, and there's nothing you can do to manipulate me to like them. So when something's a banana no, it's an absolute clear boundary, it's a line that cannot be crossed. But let's explore this world where we say no, but mean yes. Where there's an internal yes going on for us, but an external no that's happening. What is it that makes us do that? Well, one of the things is we may have a protection strategy going on. We're trying to protect ourselves. You know, the statement says you're biting off your nose to spite your face. I'm just going to say no because I'm trying to punish you, I'm trying to hurt you. This passive-aggressive game of not giving in to other people. And this happens a lot when you ask people, can I help you? No, I don't need your help, I'm fine. I'll do it myself. Being able to receive and accept support when you need it, it's a vulnerable act. And that letting people in can be a very beautiful act of love and care and support. We can also say no when we're still in the process of negotiating something. So this is where it's not absolute, but it's no, not today, or no, not yet, or no, I'm not ready, or no, can we talk about it later, or no, I need some time to think about this. So it doesn't have to be absolute. It can be something that you're busy negotiating for yourself and with someone else. The last thing to just talk about saying no is that often when we say no, it is uncomfortable for people to hear it. And often the challenge with saying no is not that we're saying no, it's how we say no. Often because of our own feeling of insecurity, defiance, worry, feeling like we're letting people down, not being nice, we get very aggressive in the way that we say no. And that can cause a lot of conflict, not because we're saying no, but because of how we're saying no. So learning to say no in a very gentle way, even no thank you. No thank you for that offer, I'm not interested in seeing you. Whatever it is. And learning to even express, I'm saying no and I know that's uncomfortable for you. I know it's not what you want to hear. But we can have a conversation about it. Creates beautiful moments of respect and intimacy in relationships. You are perfectly entitled to say no to things that aren't good for you. And even adding on to that is saying, no, I can't. Maybe more empowering to say, no, I don't want to. If somebody wants to lend money from you and you don't want to lend them money, you can say, no, I don't want to. And you can let that be uncomfortable. That's okay. So let's explore the world of yes, because there's a lot of empowerment in the language of yes as well. Learn to show up and say yes. When somebody asks you, do you want to do something, saying yes, when you feel yes, when you completely align to that, that's where flow happens. That's where we create from. But the more complex one is where we're saying yes and we want to say no, where we have an internal no. This is the world of the most amount of pain for many of us. Because this is the world of guilt often, and the world of obligation, the world of self-sacrifice and people-pleasing. Where particularly people in our lives that we care for can take advantage of us and manipulate us because we never ever say no to them. Many of us grow up believing we can't say no, we're not allowed to. That would make us mean, unkind, unreligious. Learning to pause and say, I don't know, and connect with, no, I don't want to. So if I'm going to say yes to this, how do I get clear about what I'm saying yes about? And be able to have a conversation about that. Yeah. When a friend asks you if you can look after their children and every part of you is going, no, I'm tired, and out your mouth you hear, yes, it's no problem, bring them at 5. That act of self-betrayal leads to burnout and disillusionment and even depression. I wish I could tell you that the process of saying no is going to be one that becomes easier in time. It's hard for you to believe that, but it doesn't make the guilt necessarily go away. It doesn't make that feeling of insecurity go away. But when you start to do it enough, you can start to find ways to be more true to yourself. So for now, start to connect with that internal voice. What is your inner voice saying? And before you use your outer voice to say yes and no, pause, even if it's with the words, I don't know yet, to give yourself a chance to get more aligned, to be more true to yourself. Sending you lots of love.